Hello and welcome to Cocktails with a Twist of History, your digital destination for all things cocktails. Andrew Jackson had an interesting incident with his favorite drink, the whiskey punch. But before I talk about that, I want everyone to take a link of this show and send it to somebody that they know so that they can also enjoy Cocktails with a Twist of History. Andrew Jackson was born before the American Revolution in March 15th, 1767. Before his presidency, he rose to fame in the U.S. Army. He was a general. He served in both houses of Congress. His political philosophy formed into something called the Jacksonian democracy. It restructured a number of the federal institutions. This mostly revolved around taking power from the government and giving it to the, quote, common man. He became the seventh president of the United States from 1829 to 1837. He was known to drink his whiskey straight, but he would also drink this thing called a whiskey punch. There was an infamous incident during his inauguration where the presidential race was very bitter and there was a lot of mudslinging between the candidates. His supporters were waiting for him at the Capitol, ready to celebrate a hard-won victory. Since he was a champion of the common man, he invited a lot of the common man to his inauguration. He served cake and jugs of whiskey punch to the public. They drank so much that they became drunk. This whiskey punch probably had a lot of oranges and spices and, of course, whiskey, probably bourbon. The quote-unquote average American became so drunk and disorderly that they trashed the White House. The same whiskey punch was used to lure these people onto the White House lawn and then out. Okay, I have been talking way too long without a drink in my hand. Let's make a whiskey punch. I'm going to make a smaller version. The original version was probably made in a large punch bowl for about 12 people or more. Okay, this is a whiskey drink. So we are going to use a bourbon. Here we go. We are going to need a full 2 ounces of bourbon. Here we go. A full 2 ounces we are going to put in here. Okay. I have in here also already a honey syrup. Honey syrup I've made with honey and water. Usually a 1-to-1 ratio there. Here I used a little bit more honey than water, and you heat it up a little bit so it dissolves. That was already in here. And then I need an ounce of lemon. So here we go. There's my ounce of lemon. Now we are going to put ice in here. Now if you notice, I'm using a small shaker just because, sometimes you want to use a different shaker. So here we go. But I'm still putting in plenty of ice into my shaker. And I also have a Collins glass we spoke about before, long, thin, sometimes called a chimney glass. And here we go. We're going to close this, put the top on, and we're going to shake. There we go. It does not need a lot of shaking. And we're going to pour it into our glass. There we go. Now, I've read some articles that say that the modern version needs a little bit of club soda or seltzer on the top. I'm going to try it both ways before I do that. Also, sometimes this has a lemon slice as a garnish. Today I didn't put it in, but cheers. That is very nice. A little bit similar to a whiskey sour, but I like a whiskey sour. So let's put a tiny bit of the seltzer on the top. Try it again. Very refreshing drink, very nice. So a whiskey punch. Punch was considered to be the precursor to the modern cocktail. It was very common in the 17th century before the cocktail became famous. Punch is a social drink, often served in a large bowl, and typically it has spirits, citrus, sugar, water, and spices. Think of the original whiskey cocktail as like an old-fashioned, or like we said, a whiskey sour, but put into a large bowl. Punch was one of the first popular drinks to combine different ingredients, including the spirits, which is what made it the foundational concept of the cocktail. It's primarily a communal drink, served in a large bowl, which is why it was a social drink. It was early in the blend of flavors, which then made something complex. Punch has a rich history. It was popular on various settings, including coffee houses. During historical events such as the Declaration of Independence, they served whiskey punch. Anyway, like always, if you've heard other stories or other pieces of history, we want to hear it. You can put it in the comments, send it to us by email, or you can tell it to the bottle. We want to know. Also, don't forget, hit like, hit subscribe, put something in the comments so that we know that you're out there. And thank you for watching Cocktails with a Twist of History.